Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
What is a livable community? Perhaps a deeper question is, are Wyoming communities livable by today's urban planning standards? With underwriting support from AARP Wyoming, we'll visit with CASPER planners who've been looking at the issue. We'll learn that striving to be a livable community doesn't impact just seniors. Livable Communities, next on Wyoming Chronicle.
Funding for this program provided in part by a grant from AARP, serving the needs and providing real possibilities for the over 50 population in Wyoming.
My name is TANYA Johnson. I am the Special Projects Coordinator for the City of CASPER, the City Manager's Office. And a livable community, in my opinion, is a place where people can find affordable housing, they have amenities, they have services, it's safe, it's secure, and people feel like they can make it a home and bring their family there and stay there. A livable community certainly doesn't mean just a senior community. A livable community needs to be livable for people of all ages. So it needs to have things that interest people from young to old. So it spans a very broad spectrum of interests and amenities and services that are needed in that community to make it livable for people of all ages. Here in CASPER, we've tried to understand what it means to be a livable community. And so we've undertaken a process to do a study that tells us what the seniors specifically in our community need and what they want, what they're looking for, what CASPER has already to offer our seniors, and then what things CASPER can become stronger in providing more amenities, more healthcare opportunities, more jobs, more volunteerism, more leisure activities, things like that. So we're really taking a look at that, and our updated study of 2016 has done that for us. We looked at our 2008 senior study, which was done by the University of Wyoming and the City of CASPER. We looked at that and we went from there to see what has been implemented from that study and what kind of fell out by the wayside and what needed to be focused on. And so we put together a focus committee of stakeholders here in CASPER that deal with seniors and that are part of organizations that focus on those sorts of things. We put them together and we spent about 8 months meeting every other week and at least once a month to just focus on those needs and say, what does CASPER already have? What is CASPER doing well? And what is CASPER not doing so well? And so we focused on that. And then in May of 2016, we began implementing our new 2016 Senior Services Study. The CASPER City Council has been involved in this process by, first of all, asking the City of CASPER to update the 2008 study. So they presented the idea to our leadership here at the City of CASPER. The city manager asked him to update that study and see where we are currently. And so City Council has really been involved from the beginning. They wanted us to take a look at that. They've been very supportive. We had several council members that participated in our focus group, our committee that met several times a month and that went over all of these details. They're still very involved. And my committee, my Senior Advocacy Committee, reports to Council quarterly now to update them on how we're implementing the tasks in our action plan. The demographics of the CASPER community are shouting that this senior study and these senior updates are needed right now because we have a very large population of seniors here in the city of CASPER, and that number is expected to at least double in the next 10 to 15 years. So we're looking at quite a population. 35 to 40% of our population is people 60 and over in CASPER, and it's just going to continue to increase. And we want to keep those seniors here in CASPER and give them everything they need here so that they don't leave our community. One of the things I learned throughout doing this study that was really surprising to me is that seniors really would like to be downtown, and I think that's really interesting. Seniors want to move downtown, they want to be downtown where there's things going on, they want to be involved. Just because maybe they've retired from their regular everyday job, they still want to go out to dinner and nice dining, and they want to go shopping and to movies, and they want that to be really easily accessible to them downtown in a nice maybe condo that's all on one floor. They want things to be really easy and accessible, but they certainly aren't giving up on life. They want to remain active and they want to be part of the community. And they have a lot of, they have a lot to offer our community. They're great people and we want to keep them and their resources here. And so that was surprising to me that they really just, they're demanding these things. They want movie theaters and fine dining and shopping and fun things to do, trails and hiking, and they really want to stay involved. And so we really want to focus on keeping them involved and keeping them here in our community. Well, and in Wyoming, you find that people, they have homes, maybe out in the country and things like that, but there's a big segment of them also that want to have a place in town, especially in the winter, because we want to keep them here year round. We don't want them leaving to go to Arizona and to Florida, you know, when it's so cold in the winter. So they want to kind of have a place downtown where they can come and stay and still be part of the community. And a lot of them, if they can afford it, are keeping their places out of town also, but they want to be involved in the community and they want to continue to, you know, to be relevant to things that are going on in our city.
Our thanks to Tanya and Johnson. We want to continue to explore what it means to be a livable community, and we've assembled a great panel here in CASPER to help us define that. Kate SAROSY is the Wyoming AARP State President. Kate, welcome. Aaron KLOKE is an assistant planner with the City of CASPER, and David HOUGH is the chairman of the Housing and Transportation Committee of the Senior Citizens Services Task Force, and also a member of the AARP Executive Council. David, welcome. And David, I want to talk with you. You're a former planner.
That's right.
And I would assume then that what planning means today is very, very different than what planning meant 20, 30 years ago in the concept of what it means to be a livable community. What's different today and why is it so important?
Well, one of the things that's different is planning in the earlier years was exclusionary in that it would say housing belongs here, commercial here, industrial there. Whereas now we're recognizing that the more that we've got joint uses within a neighborhood, if not within the same building, you're able to provide services very easily within a short walking distance. So transportation is a much easier process now than it was in the past when we ended up with a road network that was critical in order to tie everybody together with where they lived, where they worked, where they shopped. So that's one of the things that's different now in allowing more shared use development through the planning process.
And I would assume, is this, Aaron, a nationwide trend? Is this something that's coming a little slower to Wyoming, perhaps, compared to the rest of the country? Is Wyoming on the forefront? Where are we in the state of Wyoming relative to this?
I would say this is definitely a nationwide trend. There are cities all over who are pursuing kind of more complex and mixed-use neighborhoods to achieve, you know, greater levels of livability for their communities. And I think Wyoming is doing a pretty good job compared to peers in Colorado and Montana and Utah. There are places like CASPER, Cheyenne, Jackson, Laramie, and even Sheridan, who are doing some pretty forward-thinking things. So,
you've, Kate, now are looking at this from a state level with your position as being president of AARP Wyoming, who is providing underwriting support for this program. What is your observation on where Wyoming is today relative to what you're learning about where the rest of the country is?
I think we have some catching up to do, actually. I think there's been a conservative viewpoint on we can't do that here, we've not done that before, we don't want to be like those other states. So I think we have some catching up to do. But I'm very heartened by what's happening in CASPER and hoping to spread those ideas around the state.
It was very surprising for me to learn from Tanya that people actually, seniors especially, want to live downtown. And that's just contrary to maybe my inaccurate stereotype. Dave, in planning, one of the things that you understand perhaps is housing issues and what it means to then make housing more affordable and accessible in a downtown area rather than an area farther from downtown. What's the process involved and how does that work and how can communities start to consider that?
Well, the communities need to take a look at their housing codes to make sure that their codes aren't creating barriers that make it difficult to have housing downtown, perhaps in a building or in an area that's zoned commercial, to be able to allow the housing on the second or third floor in a commercial building. And that type of a thing was not allowed in the past, and that needs to happen if you're going to get loft-type apartments downtown. Now, for some seniors, the stairs are a major problem, so there has to be some means by which we can see single-level housing occur in a downtown environment. Economies come into play when you're looking at lower densities. The land price becomes more and more of a factor, and that's one of the key challenges in senior housing is in many cases you need a lot of space for that lower density, but then the more spread out it is, the more you've got transportation challenges and helping the seniors get to the services that they want and need.
Aaron, what's the City of Casper doing relative current day to planning for housing and what it means in the concept of a livable community?
Well, I think for starters, we started taking a look at this issue even back in 2000 with the last time we updated our comprehensive plan. Since then, detached dwelling units have been allowed and given more flexibility to allow, things like what we call grandma cottages or backyard cottages. But we still have more work to do in kind of working towards more flexible housing types and maybe something that's smaller and more easily, more affordable.
Okay, there's many things we're going to talk about in just a moment: public safety, schools, social opportunities, parks, more transportation. But back to housing, what's your perspective on ideas that communities should really now begin to consider, whether they're in Casper or whether they're in a smaller area, say like a Worland or a Torrington or a Rock Springs?
Mm-hmm. I think communities should take account of what their aging population is interested in and adapt, creatively adapt what other communities are doing nationwide to accommodate those changing needs. For example, in Casper, I'm one of those seniors who would like to live downtown. I'm getting to the point where I'm done with yard work and that sort of thing, and there isn't quite the what I'm looking for in the downtown area. So it would be great if those opportunities, if those options would be made available. In a smaller community, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that a little more, but clearly, people are changing, their ideas are changing, the options are out there, and I think it would do every community well to take advantage of what their seniors are interested in now.
Wyoming's in a challenging time
Right.
fiscally.
Yes.
How does that impact the work either of the Senior Services Committee that you're thinking about, that you're talking about? We just watched a presentation by you, David, where you talked about curb cuts, $1,400 per curb cut, thousands of curb cuts just in Casper. Money is an issue when we start talking about what it means to be a livable community. Am I right?
Yes, it certainly is, and to an extent you're hoping that people that are benefiting from the improvement can help pay for that. So something like a local assessment district that can be used for sidewalks and crosswalks and ADA ramps is one tool that can be used to help pay for that. But if you're working in a lower income neighborhood, those individuals in that neighborhood may be reluctant to and may be unable to dig into their pocket and help pay for those improvements. So it gets to be a real challenge for a community, particularly under a tight economy, to decide where are we going to spend our public dollars and where we're going to get the most benefit through those expenditure of those public dollars. And the consideration of senior needs to be on the table.
And Aaron, this is something you probably see each and every day. How do you live with that mesh of requirements of money, little resources yet need?
Right. So from my perspective, working for the City of Casper, a lot of what we can do is not always providing money, or fulfilling those gaps in financing, but providing a regulatory or policy framework where developers or just single or homeowners can be more successful in kind of working towards more adaptable or livable housing. So it's working on our zoning codes to make sure that we are implementing, something that neighborhoods that are more dense or friendlier to older demographics, or it's just allowing the flexibility to build different types of housing.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, if I may follow up on that, when Aaron mentioned adaptability, I think one of the things that AARP talks about and that we need to be thinking about is aging in place. And a home that is comfortable and accessible for a senior that has no steps going into the house, has wide hallways, wide doorways. It makes it easier for someone in a wheelchair to get around, but it also is easier to push a child in a child stroller. Sure. So there are aspects to a home that's a good home for a senior to live in, that's still a wonderful home for a family. So there might be an opportunity for the development community to look more at not just a senior house versus a home that a family would want, but the fact that the home that works well for a family now can continue to serve them for many, many years.
So to go along with that, I mean, another role that we play, and that actually everyone at this table plays, is relaying some of that information to all the players in developing a community. So helping our developers understand that these are the types of solutions that we can achieve with our limited funding.
So it'd be incumbent upon people watching, if they don't have those services in place in their community, to start communicating those desires and needs to their community, county, or city leaders. Kate, we've talked a lot about housing here. What other amenities do you feel are very, very important for communities to be thinking about today?
Sidewalks, walkability. Is it easy to walk in my neighborhood? Is it easy to walk downtown without stepping over a broken sidewalk? Things like that. Social opportunities, not just the senior center, but our library here in town has programs to bring people together, book discussions and that sort of thing. Health services, are they available? Where are they? And how do you get there? So one of the things, you talk about budget and the budget constraints these days, there's a number of things that volunteers can do. And transportation for seniors is a difficult issue, because we do have a bus system here, but it doesn't go everywhere. And it may be difficult for a senior to get to the bus stop and so on. So what about putting together a volunteer corps of drivers, for example, who would be available to pick up seniors and take them to various appointments, similar to what Meals on Wheels does, with their core of volunteers to deliver meals every day. So those are some of the other things to think about.
Talk about transportation for just a moment. In my mind, there's specialized transportation to help those that are more perhaps unable to drive themselves, or to make roads and approaches more accessible to older drivers. What is the city of Casper doing now relative to its transportation plan to accommodate more aging drivers perhaps, or to accommodate those who can't drive anymore?
Right now, the city of Casper is actually updating its comprehensive plan to include a transportation element, and that means we are kind of tackling all the issues and opportunities from a large scale down to the sidewalk level. Looking at how we can make new development more user or pedestrian and walkability friendly. Yeah.
What are your comments, David, about transportation?
One of the things that is a big challenge for us in Wyoming is the weather, and trying to provide for people wanting to walk. Even if you're walking a relatively short distance, it can be uncomfortable, but if you can provide benches, you can provide shelters, you can provide places where people can stop and get a break or get out of the elements, then they can continue on and be able to cover a number of blocks on foot and not have to rely on a vehicle if they don't happen to have the funds or aren't medically allowed to drive any longer.
Where do demographics fit into this in planning? Obviously, communities serve the whole socioeconomic scale. In your planning, Aaron, where does the demographics of the citizens that you're serving impact what it is that you're thinking about?
Well, I mean, for instance, we know in general that Wyoming has an older than average population. A lot of the recommendations that come out of our planning is just simply based on some of those facts. We know that 20% of people over the age of 65 don't drive. And it does go back to some of those similarities between seniors and other generations. I mean, we know that if we're serving seniors, we're also going to serve those under the age of 16 who can't drive. So we're realizing that we have a wide range of demographics and unique demographics, but at the same time, we also realize if we're serving seniors, we're probably serving the rest of the population very well as well.
Would you agree with that, Kate, then?
I would.
And then as you begin to look at these issues on a statewide level, what is your message to communities across Wyoming, big or small?
Find ways to make to help all your citizens feel welcome and willing to stay, as opposed to leaving the state to go south, for example, or young people leaving the state. Find ways, some require financing and others do not, to make all citizens feel welcome in the community and have opportunities to flourish.
Wyoming. Oh, David, go ahead.
Craig, I was just going to say that what all the communities need to do is some type of self-assessment and figure out, well, where are we strong? Where are we weak as far as providing not just services for seniors, but services for the whole community? And AARP has a tool called a Livability Index that can be applied across the whole country and even within at a neighborhood scale, and can be a means of measuring where do we stand on recreation, where do we stand on social services, where do we stand on housing. And that kind of an assessment by any community of any size can help go a long way for them to say, yeah, we do have a lot of seniors that don't come together at some place. Maybe we need to do more at our library to make it a place that people want to go and people want to gather and people want to spend time together.
And we have information on our screen about where to look at the AARP website to find those resources, and we urge people to go there. I'm wondering, in the near future, the priorities of the city of Casper. Aaron, if you can share those with us, what it is you hope to accomplish in the near term, in the next, say, 1 to 3 years, in regards to what it means to be a livable community.
Right. So in the next 1 to 3 years, there's plenty of low-hanging fruit to accomplish. Simply putting in ADA ramps at key intersections, repairing broken sidewalk. Other things that we can do that are long-term investments is just taking a closer look at our zoning codes to make sure that they are fit for different types of housing. There's plenty of things that we can do that are cheap or that are quick. That whether it's policy or just simply fixing a sidewalk.
Wyomingites are somewhat independent folk. I think we could all agree that, by gosh, if I can live my life this way, then why should I be concerned about the community in a broader sense? Sometimes I think that might be a hurdle, at least something that I've witnessed in community development. What are your thoughts? And I'll ask each of you this question. Kate, I'll start with you on why it's important for us to really be community-centric in our thinking rather than individual-centric.
Well, because we all have to live together, and the more, I think the more we can do that and can live our lives, the healthier we are, the more we can come together. That's why I think it's important. And also, just want to mention that there are a number of collaborative efforts in Casper to get things done. For example, Dave earlier mentioned benches in parks for seniors. Well, that was partially funded by AARP and also funded by the Rotary Group that took the lead on that project. And so I think that Casper has that advantage in having a very collaborative kind of atmosphere, a lot of agencies working together, so both private sector, nonprofits, social organizations.
Aaron, that might be a hurdle you see every now and then.
Yeah. I think that when you focus on marginalized communities, you bring the bar up for everybody.
Explain a little bit what you mean by that.
Yeah, so if you can't use stairs and you can't drive an automobile, you are marginalized in a Wyoming rural town. So if you can work towards providing a community that is accessible for for some of these marginalized people or for everyone, you're going to make it livable and a better place to live for even those who can drive and climb the stairs. So.
David, your thoughts on why it's important for a whole community to really be thinking about these issues?
Well, it makes the community more rich, and it makes it more of a place that people want to live and enjoy life. And the more that all of these different interests can collaborate to make sure that we've got available housing that's affordable and offers a range of housing types, and medical facilities and recreational opportunities and opportunities to just get together. Isolation is such a huge issue for so many seniors. And in some cases, it's just a matter of communication for them to know about opportunities to get out into the community and attend events or just simply get together with some of their friends. So that kind of exchange and communication and integration, I think, is so critical for communities of any size.
We have just about a minute left, so I'll give each of you an opportunity just to summarize your thoughts and your hopes on what it means for Wyoming to look at how important being a livable community is, rather than really the rural state that many think we are.
I think there's a richness here to the community, and our quality of life is enhanced when we can look at this issue community-wide, livability, all ages.
Yeah. Aaron?
I would just emphasize the importance of accessibility. And Wyoming is a wide-ranging state, but we have lots of clusters of amazing communities that can bring people together, and we can still achieve that.
The last word, David.
Great. Well, one of the things we haven't even touched on is economics. And the healthier that a community can be, the more funds, the more shopping opportunities that someone has within their community, the more their money is staying in that community, and the healthier that community can be financially. So just from an economic standpoint, it's good and it's sound for a community to put efforts into meeting these needs and wants of people of all ages.
Well, I'm sure that this is a discussion that really is just beginning, and I appreciate all of you joining us today in the support of AARP Wyoming in this discussion. So Kate SAROSY, Aaron KLOKE, and David HOUGH, thank you very much for joining us on this Wyoming Chronicle.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Funding for this program provided in part by a grant from AARP, serving the needs and providing real possibilities for the over 50 population in Wyoming.